Good afternoon to all, and a very warm welcome to the European Commission's daily midday briefing on this Monday, 15th of October 2012. We do not have any press events foreseen for you here today, but for tomorrow you can join us at Tours et Taxis here in Brussels for a press conference at 10:20 with Commissioner Piebalgs on the occasion of the European Development Days 2012. The European Development Days 2012 will indeed be held on Tuesday the 16th and on Wednesday the 17th of October here in Brussels at Tours et Taxis. And the topics to be discussed at this annual international gathering are, among others, food security, new development actors such as the private sector, and social protection in the poorest countries. And the European Development Days, as always, are organized by the European Commission and attended by many African heads of state and partner countries, EU ministers, members of the European Parliament, and of course members of civil society. And President Barroso will be opening the discussions on Tuesday morning at 10 a.m. So for more information you can contact Catherine Rey, but as announced, an opportunity to have to put questions to Commissioner Piebalgs at a press conference on the occasion of the Development Days 2012 in Tours et Taxis 20. Definitely, I'll not get the numbers right today, I can feel it, but it's at 10:20 tomorrow, Tours et Taxis. No more numbers right away. I just also wanted to draw your attention to the President's speech today on the occasion of the launch of the Single Market Week, all together for the single market. Let me just refer you to the speech that we will be issuing right now. You will find it in your in-trays when you get back from this briefing. The President is also taking this opportunity to stress how urgent it is for Parliament and Council to now approve the proposals, the 12 priority actions that we have tabled under the Single Market Act. And this is, of course, a message which is timely and that the President will be bringing also to the heads of state and government at the European Council on this Thursday and Friday, where indeed the implementation of the Growth Compact will be at the heart of the discussions of the leaders this week, along with other topics, of course, but growth indeed remains at the heart of the process, and the single market obviously is key to delivering growth and getting Europe back on the growth path, and hence the urgency of adoption of these priority actions and of implementation of these and many other measures already tabled by the Commission that the President is referring to, or was referring to, in his intervention as he kicked off the Single Market Week earlier this morning. And the President also had an opportunity to return to Friday's news of the Nobel Prize awarded to the EU by referring to the fact that the internal market is part of our great project for a stronger Europe. So the internal market obviously is much more than a market in that context. The speech will be in your in-tray, as I said, when you leave the briefing. Now it's over to you for any questions you want to ask. We start with Martina.
Thanks. I have two questions, one for Antoine and one for Michele. So maybe start with Antoine. I was wondering, given the apparent failure to sell off some branches of RBS to Santander and how that deal seems to have fallen apart now. Is the Commission considering granting RBS an extension to comply with state aid rules? And what's the state of play on your end? Thank you.
Well, first of all, we haven't received any requests by the UK authorities for such a change. So this is the state of play. We have been informed, of course, of the situation, and we are in contact with the UK authorities. So this is all I can say at this stage about the current state of play. Now, since I have seen comments about the Commission's policy, should what you have described be the case, it should be borne in mind that since the beginning of the crisis, whenever some amendments to restructuring plans have been accepted by the Commission, this has been on the strict condition that the original balance of the restructuring plan was preserved, which means that some compensatory measures were put in place to preserve this original balance. So this is what I can tell you today.
Thank you, Antoine. Peter?
Just a bit of a follow-up. The chairman of RBS has been making some comments about this, including the assertion that the Commission has softened its view towards state aid and competition in regards to banks because of the current crisis. Can you address those comments? Thanks.
Well, the second comment I made was meant to address this specifically. What I can say is that this specific measure was meant to preserve competition in the UK retail market. And the reason why this measure was included in the restructuring plan, in the commitments that we have accepted, which is to compensate the distortion to competition created by state aid, remains valid.
Okay, thank you very much, Antoine. Let's see if there are other questions for you before you leave the podium. Yes, for Antoine. Go ahead.
Maria Knyazeva, Russian news agency RIA Novosti. I got a question about the Gazprom case. I would like to know what is now the state of the Gazprom investigation case, and do you have now any expectations of when the case could be closed, and could it be closed this year? Thanks.
Well, the state of play of this investigation, which we have opened recently, is simply that we are investigating. So the investigation is following its normal course. And I cannot give you any indication on timing, because the timing of antitrust investigations depends very much on the specifics of the case. And today I cannot tell you when it will be finished.
Okay, thank you very much. Still for Antoine, go ahead. No, something else. Okay, let's just check. I think we've covered the ground. Thank you very much. Yes, please go ahead. And then Bruno.
Hello, Boban Onkovic, Macedonian Information Agency. It's for Michele Cercone, if he's here, or someone from the Commissioner Malmström office. There is a lot of media speculation and one official statement by German minister that the countries from the Western Balkan, especially Macedonia and Serbia, will face with reintroducing of visa for the Schengen area because of the asylum seekers. Speculation goes so far that some says that the 5 EU countries especially seek for reintroducing of visa for those countries. Can you address this?
Yes, let's make some clarity over this point, and then I will give you the more detailed Commission comment and position on this. We did receive indeed a letter coming from 6 member states of the European Union. In the letter, this is signed by their Minister for Interior, and of course, they express their worry about the fact that since many months now, many member states have to face a considerable influx of people coming from the countries that have just benefited from visa liberalization in the Balkans that come to ask for asylum. In the letter, they ask to discuss at the next Justice and Home Affairs Council on the October 25 and 26 the third report that the Commission has been presenting recently on the situation, that's the evaluation of the situation in the area and in the member states. They also ask to agree as soon as possible the safeguard clause that would allow in the future to reintroduce visa in cases of serious problems and serious deficiencies. So at this stage, there is no request, or at least the Commission has not received any specific request to reintroduce visa for those countries. This is for the sake of clarity. Now, as for, from our point of view, we are extremely worried because the situation is more and more worrying. What Commissioner Malmström said several times when talking about visa liberalization in the Balkans is that this is a great achievement, it's a great freedom, but it comes with huge responsibilities. And it's more than time now for the countries, their authorities and their citizens to prove they can handle this huge responsibility.
Okay. Thank you very much. A quick follow-up, go ahead.
Yeah, would you want to explain us what is the situation regarding this? And there is such a specific procedure in your directorate and in the Commission regarding the termination of visa liberalization for some country?
Here again, some more technical explanation. I'll try to keep it very short. As you know, we have put in place a post-visa liberalization monitoring mechanism. This is a mechanism that relies on alert services with Frontex, with monthly data supplied, and for many other sources of information that allow us to have a clear overview of the number of people, of the number also of asylum seekers who introduce their request in member states, and give us the possibility to follow the influx of people in the framework of the visa-free regime that has been granted. What you refer to is a different thing. It's a safeguard clause. Now, this safeguard clause is a proposal that has been presented by the Commission in order to introduce a suspension mechanism which would allow, under certain exceptional conditions, for temporary reintroduction of the visa requirement for third country nationals benefiting from the EU visa waiver. This is now currently being discussed between Council and Parliament, and it is of course a tool that would allow, if adopted, to reintroduce visa obligation in exceptional circumstances and for very specific and very criteria-based cases when adopted. But it is not adopted yet, and the ministers in their letter, they ask for adoption of this mechanism, or of this suspension mechanism, before the end of the year.
Okay. Thank you, Martina. We come back to you. You had a question for Michaela as well.
Thanks. Sorry, I may be ignorant here. Would you mind telling us who the 6 ministers are? That's the first question, just as a clarification. And the second question is, the Turkish EU minister, Egemen Bagish, called on the EU to contribute more to the refugee crisis stemming from the Syrian conflict that Turkey is shouldering at the moment. He said there's more than 80,000 Syrians in camps and that the country itself can't handle all these people. I understand that this was a matter for discussion last week between the Greek Prime Minister and the Turkish Foreign Minister who was visiting Athens. They discussed the situation at the border with Syrians, and also there's been a massive increase of influx of Syrians at the Greek-Turkish border, sort of being smuggled into Greece. So first of all, are you suggesting that, at a time when asylum seekers need the EU most, Europe may be denying them this right? Secondly, is there a response to Mr. Bagis's request for more assistance? How can the EU help more? How can the EU help Turkey more to deal with this? And third, are you concerned about renewed pressure at the Greek-Turkish border given Syria's the influx of Syrians? Thanks.
Just a quick check. Are you linking your first question to what I just said? Or it is a general question? Because I don't see how European Union in any way has ever hampered or could hamper the possibility for asylum seekers to ask for asylum in Europe. That's absolutely not the case. And we've made clear we have a fully fledged legislation that allows all people who need international protection and comes to Europe to do so. And we are clear with member states, so I don't understand exactly where your question comes from. If you refer to what I just said, we're not talking about asylum seekers. We're talking about people who are in a visa-free regime who come to the EU, so they come without visa from the Balkans. Now, the problem is that many of them, or a part of them, are lodging asylum requests that are, at the end of the evaluation process, clearly unfunded. And this is happening with big number of people coming from that region. And these people, of course, are now creating a backlog and a serious problem for the asylum seeker system of the EU countries concerned. And this is detrimental for asylum seekers who really want to have international protection. This said, yeah, but your first question was very, very clear about hampering the EU or the European Commission.
Take the microphone, Martina, please.
Can you take the microphone?
My first question was, who are the 6 ministers? And seeing as though you are the spokesperson to respond to the Turkish minister's request for more assistance, I'm also asking about the situation with Syrian refugees in Turkey separately. I'm sorry if that wasn't clear. So, yeah.
That's why I asked you to give me more precision about your question. Now it's more clear. It was not clear at the beginning. 6 ministers are ministers from Belgium, Luxembourg, Germany, France, Austria, and the Netherlands. So this closes a bit the Balkan visa liberalization issue. Now, coming to what you say, yes, of course, we are worried about the events in Syria. We have been following this up very closely. Part of your question, I think, is for my colleague who's dealing with humanitarian aid, because part of that intervention is done directly on the field, on the ground. And what we have seen is that the vast majority of refugees or people are fleeing to countries, neighbor countries. So at this stage, the numbers, the arrivals in the EU are limited. Of course, this doesn't mean that we are not following this. We have been discussing this, Commissioner Malmström has discussed this with the interior ministers in the informal Justice and Home Affairs in Nicosia, in Cyprus. And we are carefully looking after all the possibilities in order to help the countries that are currently supporting these people and who are hosting the camps and the refugees. And of course, we are preparing for scenarios where a large amount of potential refugees from Syria would arrive directly to the European Union. And this is also something that will be discussed at the next Justice and Home Affairs Council end of October.
A follow-up, Martina?
Sorry, very, very quickly. Considering that Greece's main weakness, as has been diagnosed by the Commission, is the asylum system that is now trying to be developed from scratch, is there any plan to assist Greece specifically with asylum requests, considering that it would probably be that country that would be receiving Syrians coming in from Turkey? Thanks.
We are, and this was absolutely clear also in our recent Commissioner Malmström visit to Athens and to Greece in general, we are supporting Greece with all the tools available for the European Commission, including financial assistance. Just for your knowledge, between 2011 and 2012, 170 million euros have been made available to Greece to manage migratory and asylum flows. Other 85 million euros will be available for 2013. We are assisting Greece with 2 Frontex operations, Poseidon Land, Poseidon Sea. EASO, European Asylum Support Office, is helping the country with its experts in the asylum field. So we are doing, we've put in place all the tools and we're doing all the possible efforts. This said, once again, we cannot take Greek authorities' place. This is something that has to be managed and well managed and efficiently managed by the Greek authorities. It is something that, of course, is of great concern to the European Commission.
Okay, thank you. Tom was next on this.
3 questions, please. First, could you say us what countries are actually covered by this monitoring mechanism you mentioned, and how many requests for asylum have been registered from these countries in the 6 countries you got the letter from? And could you tell us what would be the preconditions more precisely to suspend the visa-free travel?
The countries that are covered by the post-visa liberalization monitor mechanism are all the Balkan countries that have recently enjoyed visa liberalization. So it's Bosnia, Herzegovina, Albania, Serbia, former Yugoslav Republic of Macedonia, Montenegro, and I think that's the 5 that. Yeah, there's one missing, but I'll tell you later on. As for the numbers, now we don't have, and I don't have it here, and I don't think that it's public information, the full numbers. But what you can have is a full evaluation of the situation. This is in our 3rd report on the post-visa liberalization monitoring mechanism. This is a public document that has been adopted end of the summer, so it's available. I can give it to you, or you can look over the web. It's on the DG Home website, and there you will see exactly the trends. And I'm not sure that the full figures are available, but all the figures that can be given and all the, let's say, trends are there. It's clearly a worrying situation.
Okay, Tom, follow up.
The preconditions for the suspension of the visa-free travel regime, and who is going to decide? Is it a council decision, or does the Commission have to propose it, or how does it work?
Should a member state, this is in the safeguard clause that is not yet adopted, to be clear, but it's being discussed currently by the Parliament and the Council. So if adopted in the system proposed by the Commission as such, should a member state notify the Commission of such an emergency situation, the Commission will assess the situation in light of relevant facts, and if it finds that visa waivers should be suspended for national of a 3rd country, it will use the examination procedure to submit a draft implementing decision to the relevant committee. It's a committee at the council level, and the committee will deliver its opinion by qualified majority vote. And following the result of this vote, the Commission adopts the implementing decision. So it passes by a committee at council level, and then it is decided at qualified majority, and depending from the result of the vote, the Commission then takes a final decision.
Okay, then it was Bruno and then Georgi.
It's on a different issue, but it's actually for Michaela, I think. Do you deal with the European arrest warrant? And I'd like to know exactly how a country would leave the European arrest warrant under the transitional measures in the Lisbon Treaty. I'd like to know what costs would be incurred on a country leaving the European arrest warrant, because I seem to remember there being something on that in the relevant clause. And I'd like to know whether Britain has asked the Commission for any cost or other implications in leaving the European arrest warrant, because as you are no doubt aware, later on this afternoon the government will be announcing that it intends to exercise its opt-out of 130 pieces of justice and home affairs legislation.
Yes, it is something that in terms of requests by the UK we haven't seen. We have heard a lot in media, but we haven't had any direct request. So this is a possibility for the UK to opt out from the justice and home affairs area. They have until 1st of December 2014, and this is of course a decision that lies entirely in the hands of the UK's authority. It is in the protocol to the treaty, so it's there. It's a fully fledged possibility, and it's an option that it's in their hands. Of course, should this happen, the Commission will evaluate all the possible follow-up, also in terms of costs, but this is not the case yet.
Okay, Georgi?
Going back to the Western Balkans, it's a recurrent problem, actually, Michele. I mean, every year with the approach of the winter, we have the same problem, and you probably know that the winter is very tough in the Western Balkans. So we have this population coming here and exploiting, the asylum system, spending basically the winter in Western countries, and then being returned in spring. I mean, isn't it better to improve the functioning of the asylum system and just tell those people that they do not qualify for asylum because they come from countries like Serbia or Macedonia, and those are democratic countries. So there is no basis for asking for asylum coming from there.
This is exactly the point that we are trying to make. The vast majority of the asylum requests lodged by citizens of countries of Balkan countries who have benefited from visa liberalization are unfunded, and these are, in general terms, almost all more economic migrants than asylum seekers. Now, the problem is that according to the rules that we have in place in the EU, any person who lodges or files an asylum request has to see its case assessed at different levels and different degrees. And this is a right that is widely recognized. So the point is that massive influx of people asking for asylum and who, with no real reason to have international protection, are basically blocking and creating serious problems for the functioning of the asylum system in many member states, including the 6 that have written the letter. This is why I say that this is a huge responsibility for the governments of those countries, the authorities of these countries, but also the citizens. This is a huge freedom, visa-free, the visa-free regime, but it is at the same time a huge responsibility that is carried not only by the governments, but also by the citizens. And in the post-visa mechanism that we have put in place, we have identified a number of measures, and there are 5 clear principles and 5 clear measures and initiatives that have to be taken by the countries concerned. These are in the report that I mentioned before. And we are working together with those countries in order to make sure that at all levels, these issues are addressed via information campaigns, via more efforts at the border, via better dialogue with those countries and their citizens. But it has to be clear that if the situation is not tackled and solved, the risk is there that consequence will have to be paid, both for those who are abusing the system, which are a small minority, but sadly for the vast majority who's making good use of this freedom. So I share your concerns, and we're trying to work on this, but as you know, countries concerned have to play their part of the.
Okay, more questions on this? Sorry if I don't take the first ones first, but I take them the order I see them. Let's have the 2 here, and Stefan, I won't forget you.
Thank you. Michele, can you tell us which countries are problematic? From which countries, because we are speaking all the time about Western Balkans, and there are 5 countries covered with visa liberalization, and it looks that not from all countries there is massive flux of fake asylum seekers. Can you confirm that it's most problematic are Serbia and Macedonia? And this concern of yours, will this affect your dialogue for visa liberalization with Kosovo that is ongoing?
No, we don't single out specific countries, because over time we have seen that this is not a specific country's problem, and we have seen trends changing and moving and shifting in different countries, But what is worrying altogether is the situation in the 5 countries that have benefited from the visa liberalization regime. This is something that has to be tackled with the same energy by all the countries concerned, because we have seen that at a moment or another, the abuse or the abusive system has been stemming from all the countries. So it's not to single out, it's just to send a very clear message, not only in political terms, but also in very practical terms. And sorry, your second question?
Second question was that will this concern that you have, this, let's say, bad example, have impact on the dialogue that Commission is doing with Kosovo, to include Kosovo also in the visa liberalization?
No, I wouldn't link or make different links. Let's examine and assess the situation in the countries that we are now dealing with. The situation with Kosovo and the dialogue with Kosovo, it's at another stage. This is something that, in any case, this problem of asylum seekers is already addressed in our negotiations and in our dialogue with Kosovo. So it will not have a direct impact, but it's something that is already taken into account in order to step up measures to prevent these possible abuses.
Thank you. Next question.
Michele, perhaps this analysis of yours should go deeper. Consider my question, please. The majority of asylum seekers from the Western Balkans, which European Union countries regard as a problem, come from Serbia and Macedonia, which you will see if you take a look at the numbers. For instance, from Montenegro, which also has this visa-free regime, there are, I think, 8, so less than 10, 8 persons who were asylum seekers. I don't think it should pose such a big problem for the European Union. This is one level of this question. The second is the majority of the asylum seekers are Roma, which poses a huge problem also for the European Union. Does it mean that European Union has a problem with Roma who are asylum seekers? And this is very important question, because Romas are sent back to the 2 Western Balkans countries. However, it might be that they also come from Romania and Bulgaria. So it could be also, because I've seen this analysis, it could be that the Roma from the European Union are also, how to say, pushed back into the country which is not from the European Union. And yeah, I mean, don't be so surprised. It could happen because of the fluctuation of population. It is a very serious concern also from the part of human rights. And what do you expect, for instance, from a Serbian policeman or a Macedonian policeman, that they select Romas? They do not let Romas out of the country. It is a huge problem which cannot be. What responsibility of the country do you expect? Targeted toward Romas?
The end of the question. I would still very much plead for questions to remain questions. I know there are many important issues that we are trying to deal with, and many of them are underpinned by indeed complex analysis, but let's try to keep questions manageable here in the press room. Thank you.
I think that I can single out 3 main questions from your speech, I would say. Well, you say that countries are not all on the same level. I agree. Trends show that there are different influx from different countries. But this is not just about now. We have seen countries that in the past did not raise any problem, have negative trends or problematic trends, and we don't have a crystal ball. We don't know what can happen in the future, so you never know what will happen, and it's important for this reason that all countries take strong measures, initiatives, and that they do act in order to tackle this problem. Then on the link between Roma and singling out a specific ethnic group, we are dealing with asylum seekers. We don't look at the ethnic origins or other differences. What we see and what member states judge and assess is asylum requests that are filed by person. And each person has the right to see his case assessed on its own merit, and on the basis of the possible existence of persecution or danger, the personal file is assessed, and then the authorities take a decision if this person needs or not international protection. This is what is happening. The system is the same for all people, all those who are in need or think to be in need of international protection. And if at the end of the assessment someone is considered not to be in need or entitled to international protection, this is a decision then that is taken and affects all the people. So the system is clear, the rules are clear, the procedure is clear, and we are dealing seriously with these cases. What we are worried about is the fact that large numbers of people coming to the EU from countries that have benefited from visa liberalization and are lodging, filing asylum requests that in their vast majority are unfunded, is hampering the national asylum system and creating a problem also for those who are entitled to have this international protection, making things difficult, making procedures more lengthy, and altogether crippling the asylum systems. And this is why we need intervention. Now, this cleared, what do we need? What do we ask to member states? I will go through quickly the points that we have raised. First of all, step up operational cooperation and information sharing with member states and the Commission. Second, investigate the facilitators of irregular migration, such as transport companies and travel agencies. Third, strengthen exit controls in line with citizens' fundamental rights. Fourth, organize information campaigns to inform travelers of their rights under the visa-free regime. Fifth, continue to integrate minority populations, particularly the Roma. So as you can see, we have a specific point, and the situation of Roma people is, of course, very important to us. We have a dialogue with those countries in order to specifically tackle this issue. So I think that what I just mentioned are not only initiatives and measures that stem from the need to address the situation, but are also common sense. And this is what we're asking to those countries.
Okay, Michele, thank you. Stefan, thanks for your patience.
Yes, just on the numbers, you said it's a big number. Wouldn't it be good, in the sake of transparency, to say about how much people we talk? I heard the figure of 1,500, for example. It doesn't seem to me like a huge problem, but maybe you see it differently. But and the question of the Roma population, yes, it's actually the same point, the question of transparency. Why don't you say openly it might be a problem of applicants coming from this ethnic group? So it would be easy probably to address also the problem at the source. Thank you.
First, the second part of your question. The problem of Roma population is it is clearly a problem, but you cannot take it as such. You cannot single out a specific ethnic group. You have to consider the overall influx. Now, if you want figures, I can help you out with some partial figures. I don't have here with me the figures for the overall trends, but I can give you some figures so that you understand a bit what we're talking about. In Germany, we're talking about 4,835 applications in the first 8 months of 2012. In Sweden, in the first 8 months of 2012, 4,200 almost. In Switzerland, almost 3,000. And then we have other countries under, in Belgium, 1,035, and in Luxembourg, 1,159. So this gives you probably a better idea, a better picture of the figures. And we're talking about let's say, relatively small amount of time. And this, when I mean these are more specifically the surge in asylum application in this country. So you can understand that such an increase in an asylum system can easily create problems, and that's something that we really need to avoid.
Okay, thank you. A short second question, and then we move to Oliver. Please go ahead for a short question. Go ahead.
Have you seen the analysis that Roma who do not have economic conditions to spend the winter come to these Western countries that you have mentioned and spend 3 months of the winter time and then go back? So wouldn't it be appropriate from the European Commission to perhaps aim to resolving the question of how Roma in the Western Balkans will spend the winter? Because this is the reason why people are going outside the borders, to spend the winter and have some allowances.
Well, I think that if there is an appeal to be launched to someone or some institutions in order to manage and assess how the Roma are treated, or the situation of the Roma people at their also living conditions, these are the authorities of the countries that have benefited from visa liberalization. It is not for the Commission to take their place in this task. This is exactly what we are telling them. And the fifth point, as I clearly mentioned, is the situation of the Roma communities and Roma people in those countries. But these are countries, as you said, outside the European Union, and it is in their hands the way they handle, they manage, and they guarantee living conditions or whatever to the Roma communities, the way Roma communities are treated in those countries. You cannot ask the European Commission to take their place. And this is why we are asking them to increase their efforts in order to address and solve these situations. Because if the consequence is that these people, but I'm not only talking about Roma people, but that citizens from those countries come and cripple the asylum system or block the asylum systems in EU countries, this is a lose-lose situation.
Oliver Grimm.
Yeah, sorry, a question on the figures because I didn't catch them properly. Are these figures just, these are asylum seekers from these West Balkan countries that enjoy the visa waiver, the visa-free scheme? And do you have somewhere on the website of your DG the overall statistics, or where can I find that? Is that on Frontex website or something? Because I think it would be good for us to follow up with some hard figures. Thank you.
The figures I gave you is the overall number of asylum applicants in those countries. To reply our colleague who was talking about numbers. These are the asylum numbers. In these numbers, there are clearly, steadily rising numbers of applicants from these 5 countries. You will find the detail, part of the detail in the report on the post-visa liberalization report that has been adopted by the Commission end of the summer, and it's available online. So everything is there. And if you want, send me a mail, or else you just go to the DG Home website and you will find it. You will find it there. So the situation is very clear. That's why I'm talking about trends and not more specifically, because you have to see how many of these requests come from these 5 countries. There is, and that is worrying, an increasing trend, and this trend has been increasing in the last years. So we are really worried.
Okay, final question on this issue.
Thank you. Just for clarification, so the figures that you mentioned include people from Syria, Iraq, Afghanistan, Tunisia, and other countries. So we are not speaking about Western Balkans alone in those figures that you gave to us.
Figures are the total number of asylum requests received by those countries. And what I'm telling you is that in these figures, within these figures, there is a worrying increase of asylum requests coming from the 5 countries that benefited from visa liberalization. If you want to have more specific details on the increase, the trends, you can look at the report and you will see what I said before is that I'm not sure that total global numbers are in the report, but you can have a clear idea of the trends and of the impact of these asylum requests on the asylum system of the countries that are expressing their worries.
Okay, thank you very much, Michele. Let's see if there are questions on other issues now. Go ahead.
Hello, my name is Jennifer McKinnon from Aberdeen Journals and Euractiv. Today's quite an exciting day in Scotland. David Cameron is coming up to sign off the referendum question with Alex Salmond. I'm wondering now if we can get some clarification, please, on what the European Commission's position would be for an independent Scotland.
Well, you're referring to something which is going to take place, so it hasn't taken place yet. But what I can tell you, and it's not very different from what we've already been saying on this issue, that it is indeed not the role of the Commission to express a position on questions of internal organisation related to constitutional arrangements in the Member States. What I can add, however, is that concerning certain scenarios, such as the separation of one part of a Member State or the creation of a new state, these would not be neutral as regards the EU treaties, and the Commission would express its opinion on the legal consequences under EU law on request from a Member State detailing a precise scenario. So this is what I can say where we stand today regarding this particular question. A follow-up, sorry.
Excuse me. Can you give us any idea of a sort of timeline for when this might be happening? No.
I cannot give you any timeline as to, because it entirely depends on any request we would receive at any given point in time from a Member State based on a precise scenario. Okay? Go ahead.
Yeah, I don't know if I got you right, but do you mean that, for instance, Madrid should request an opinion from the Commission? Should they want to know what would it happen if part of Spain leaves?
I just had a question. I responded specifically to a question on Scotland, but indeed this is generally applicable. When we would take a position, that would be on the basis of a request by a member state of the European Union, and that would then be on the basis of a precise scenario. So two things need to be, two conditions, if you like, need to be fulfilled. There needs to be a request from a member state for an opinion of the Commission. And secondly, there needs to be a precise scenario specified on the basis of which we can give that opinion. Okay? Peter.
Just to further clarify that, because we obviously have a situation in Belgium as well. What would the European Commission be opining on legally? Whether it is legal for a region to leave its member state? You say you'll offer a legal opinion, but on what exactly?
I think I replied to that by saying we need a scenario. Now you're referring to a third potential scenario, which, I'm not, pronouncing myself upon today. I got questions relating to 2 member states. Now you've just introduced a third. We would need a scenario, indeed described by a member state, requesting the Commission's opinion before we would be in a position to assess the implications with regard to the EU treaty and indeed the consequences with regard to the EU treaties. So, I can't pronounce myself on any particular scenario today because I don't have it. Peter.
Let me ask the question differently then. Taking all the examples off the table, what in the EU treaties gives the Commission the authority to rule legally on separation of subnational regions? What does the Commission have to weigh in on legally?
I'm not saying that we would rule on that or the other. I'm just saying that we would express our opinion on the legal consequences under EU law in case a member state requested us to do so and on the basis of a precise scenario. That's quite different, I think. Okay, that's what I can say on this today. Jean-Pierre?
Jean-Pierre, je m'excuse d'insister, mais pour le cas de la Belgique, ce qui est évoqué notamment par le vainqueur des élections d'hier, dans une grande ville, c'est la naissance d'une confédération. Savoir si une confédération serait une association d'États indépendants, qui serait d'abord indépendant, qui déciderait éventuellement de s'associer ensuite. Est-ce que ce cas-là entre dans ce que tu appelles un scénario? Et je crois que le débat porte, qu'est-ce qu'un scénario? Qu'est-ce que pour vous un scénario? Est-ce que l'État belge, l'État espagnol, demain, doivent vous rentrer, le cas échéant, précisons, une élaboration d'un schéma politique quelconque? Qu'est-ce que ce scénario, en fait?
Ok. Ça, Jean-Pierre, je ne vais pas le définir davantage parce que pour l'instant, effectivement, on ne parle que de scénarios débattus dans différents États membres, etc. Et ce n'est pas, et c'est ça que j'ai dit en premier, ce n'est pas le rôle de la Commission de prendre position sur des questions débattues et qui ont trait à l'organisation interne et constitutionnelle dans les États membres. Et ce que j'ai dit, c'est que si un État membre demande l'avis de la Commission sur les conséquences sous droit européen, sur la base d'un scénario précis, défini en détail, à ce moment-là, la Commission, bien entendu, donnera son opinion, mais pas avant. Donc voilà ce que je peux dire. Je ne peux pas définir a priori ce scénario qui n'existe pas pour nous, parce que nous n'avons pas devant nous un scénario décrit par un État membre de l'Union européenne. Donc voilà des conditions qui doivent être réunies pour que je puisse être plus précis en réponse à ces questions. Donc, Béatrice, tu peux continuer, mais je dirais la même chose, donc je me répéterai. Donc, je suggère qu'on ne continue pas trop longtemps. Vas-y.
Just to clarify, just a month ago, Olivier Bailly was very clear about what the consequences could be. Like the new entity could be a third country in relation to the EU and would have to apply for membership and to sign a new treaty. Has this view changed? Could it be adapted depending on the scenario? Thank you.
I just gave you the position, the Commission's position, the President's position on what is, different questions coming to us on these issues. That is our position. This is where we stand now. And indeed, were we to detail anything further, we would require a precise scenario. Okay? Jean-Pierre et Anne ont envie de continuer néanmoins la discussion. Jean-Pierre d'abord.
Un nouveau follow-up, si tu permets. Comme l'a dit notre consoeur, on a entendu Olivier effectivement sur cette question. On a aussi lu Madame Reding, qui, si j'ai bien lu, a évoqué l'idée que une éventuelle sécession, en l'occurrence de la Catalogne, pourrait se passer dans le cadre européen. Est-ce que c'est une erreur de sa part? Est-ce que cette interprétation-là n'est pas la bonne?
Mais je n'ai pas qualifié ce que Mme Reding a dit dans un scénario dans une situation bien précise par rapport à des questions qui étaient particulières et donc qu'elle a clarifié elle-même. Ce que je viens de préciser, je crois très clairement, et c'est la position de la Commission, c'est la position du Président, c'est effectivement ce que je viens de dire. Je ne vais pas le répéter, je crois, une troisième fois. Donc, non, je n'ai pas d'autres qualifications à apporter sur ce que nous avons dit dans différentes situations, dans différents contextes, et ça ne contredit absolument pas ce que Mme Reding a dit d'ailleurs. Anne, vas-y.
Oui, non, mais je dois être bouchée. Concrètement, si on fait des hypothèses, on n'est pas on ne te demande pas une réponse. Si demain l'Écosse ou la Catalogne ou la Flandre ou peu importe, ou la Bretagne ont un vote, sont indépendantes, c'est accepté par Londres, les deux pays se séparent, ou c'est accepté par la capitale, l'Écosse devient automatiquement le 29e État de l'Union européenne, ou elle n'est plus dans l'Union européenne et elle doit demander. Ce que tu nous dis, c'est que tu n'en sais rien, qu'il faut un scénario. Tu nous dis que... Enfin, on ne comprend pas.
Je dis, là, tu parles de situation hypothétique et je viens de dire au début, nous ne voulons pas, en tant qu'institution, parce que ce n'est pas notre rôle, exprimer une position sur ce qui est, à ce stade, des questions d'ordre juridique interne ou constitutionnelle, si tu préfères, dans un État membre. Voilà ce que je dis. Donc, c'est un choix que nous faisons. Nous ne voulons pas nous prononcer tant que ça reste une question, d'ailleurs hypothétique, et d'ordre interne constitutionnel. Par contre, si un État membre nous soumet un scénario précis d'une nature ou d'une autre, effectivement, dépendant de pays en question, nous, bien sûr, allons donner un avis. Voilà où nous en sommes. OK, donc ça, je crois que cela conclut ce que nous pouvons faire et dire sur ces sujets-là. Et bien entendu, comme nous avons aussi eu l'occasion de le rappeler auparavant, concernant la question générale d'accession d'États membres à l'Union européenne, bien entendu, ceci doit être en règle avec ou conforme aux règles et procédures prévues dans les traités. Mais il n'y a pas de scénario précis actuel sur lesquels nous pouvons nous prononcer. Donc voilà où j'aimerais arrêter pour aujourd'hui cette question. Et merci de les avoir posées néanmoins. S'il n'y a pas d'autres questions sur d'autres sujets, je vous souhaite un bon appétit, mais il y a une autre question.
I have a short question for Peter Stano, if he's here. It's on enlargement in Serbia. As a reaction on the progress reports issued last week and the enlargement strategy, there were reactions in Serbia, expression of disappointment that Serbia was not given a date to start accession talks. Prime Minister of Serbia, Ivica Dačić, said that Serbia was blocked, I am quoting, by those who lost Second World War, while Serbia was on the winning side in that war. So I want to know what's the reaction of the Commission here. Do you see this as an insult to a member state, or what's your opinion on this statement?
Thank you, Augustin, and it's today good to see the attention and the focus shifted to the Western Balkans almost for the entire midday briefing. As you can guess, we took note of what was reported that the Serbian Prime Minister has said, but as you know, we are not providing running commentary on the remarks of individual politicians and statements. What we are saying, I mean, in this context specifically, since you mentioned the progress report and the reactions in Serbia, Commissioner for Enlargement Stefan Füle was in Belgrade last week to discuss the progress report and what's to be done in the aftermath of publishing this assessment of how the country is doing in the enlargement process. And basically, he explained everything what's necessary, and we invited Serbian government to concentrate on the EU priorities right now, so what is important for the country. That means, in particular, reform of judiciary, for example, fight against corruption and organized crime, protection of minorities and vulnerable groups, media freedom, and also it is very important for Serbian citizens to see measures taken and implemented to curb down the flow of bogus asylum seekers in order to safeguard the visa liberalization regime, which was discussed only a short while ago. And in this context, I would just refer you to point number 14 from the conclusions and recommendations of the strategy paper and enlargement package, which says, in connection with the visa liberalization, what we expect from the countries as well, from the countries in the region. So let me quote, countries should reinforce measures to tackle abuse of visa-free travel. So we have a whole set of issues and tasks on which Serbia and also other countries in the enlargement process should concentrate, and we really encourage them and invite them to focus on these issues.
Okay, thank you very much, Peter. Other questions? Still another one, go ahead.
On Croatia, there are many negative reactions from Germany on the future Croatia's accession. This morning, Minister Westerwelle has said that the chances are not looking that well. So I wonder, also the President of Bundestag, I wonder what the reaction of the Commission is.
Well, every member state is entitled to its opinion, and let me remind you about the procedures. Croatia's accession treaty has been signed last December by all member states. after the negotiations of accession of Croatia have been successfully completed and the country, to the satisfaction of all member states, basically fulfilled the necessary criteria. By now, parliaments of almost half of the member states have ratified the accession treaties, and Croatia is basically due to join the European Union on the 1st of July next year. The fact that we have identified in the comprehensive monitoring report on Croatia areas where Croatia needs to make progress does not mean that Croatia is not or will not be ready on the 1st of July next year. The points identified in our reports, they present a working document or working agenda for Croatia in the coming months where more efforts need to be done in order to complete successfully all the preparations.
Okay, thank you, Peter. Let me just look once more to make sure that there is not an outstanding question somewhere. Doesn't seem to be the case. Thanks very much.